Hi guys, welcome to Elephants in the Kitchen. Now, you may not know what this is, and there's a chance you might if you follow me because I've probably posted about it trying to tease this, but this is the first episode of my amateur cooking show. Now, we're gonna get into all of the details of this, but I'm so excited to be here. I've honestly wanted to do this for so long, and we're finally here. So welcome to Elephants in the Kitchen, guys. Today, we are going to be making, have you guys ever heard of Marry Me pasta? Well, I call these Marry Me chocolate chip cookies because I feel like if you can make a good chocolate chip cookie, you're set up. Every time I make these for anyone, they love them. And here's the thing, there's so many chocolate chip cookies in the world, and so it's you want to have a good one, right? Because all chocolate chip cookies are good, but these are just I don't know, there's something about these that are just so good. And this is a recipe that I've honestly memorized over the years, which is kind of funny. I've made chocolate chip cookies a million times, and so as I've made them over the years, I've developed my own recipe based on a lot of other recipes that I've used that I like the best, that I feel taste the best, because I like my chocolate chip cookies a very specific way. So if you guys don't like your chocolate chip cookies gooey on the inside, chewy on the outside, you might not like these, but this is the way that I like them. I don't like hard chocolate chip cookies. I don't like really chewy chocolate chip cookies. I want them to feel underbaked on the inside almost, and then on the outside, I want them to be crispy and chewy, if that makes sense. So crispy on the outside, gooey on the inside, good in the stomach, good for your soul, good for your heart. So I also feel this is just a basic thing that I feel everyone should know how to make, especially if you're first trying to start tackling baking or cooking or whatever it is. Knowing a chocolate chip cookie recipe off the top of your head, I feel just changes the game. So we're gonna do this thing. So there are two really important components to a good chocolate chip cookie. First, you have your wet ingredients. Your wet ingredients are gonna be butter, eggs, sugar, and vanilla. And then you have your dry ingredients: flour, baking soda, baking powder, and salt. And then obviously chocolate chip cookies, but I don't know if that classifies as a dry ingredient. I guess technically. Anyways, those are your two parts that you're gonna need. And a good way to kind of memorize this recipe and know what you're doing is to just know that those parts are always gonna be separated. So you're always going to start with your wet ingredients, and then you're gonna move to your dry ingredients. So let's start making cookies, guys. And also, obviously, I want to introduce the show and talk to you guys about what I'm doing, why I'm doing this. If you guys follow me or know anything about me, you probably know that I have a podcast called Elephants in the Room, and it's all about addressing the elephants in the room. So I talk a lot about trauma. I talk a lot about pursuing healthy relationships. I talk about religion. I talk about all the things, relationships, and really everything in between. So I had this idea to start Elephants in the Kitchen because I feel the podcast is something that I love so much and that's so dear to my heart, but it's a very heavy thing, and generally I like to talk about things that I feel really matter a lot and are really important, and things that don't get talked about, things that maybe we're all scared to talk about because it's uncomfortable and it's embarrassing, because vulnerability is something that set me free in my life, and so I love the podcast so much. But I also feel it's not something that I feel is easy to do. It takes a lot and it's amazing, but I also want to do something that is fun and that is just lighthearted and just a space where I can just have fun with you guys, not be so serious. Not that I'm always serious on the podcast, but it feels I tend to lean into more serious topics and stuff. And so I wanted this cooking show to be a place where we can obviously still talk about the elephants in the kitchen, And I'm still going to have guests on here, talk to people, interview people, but I just want it to be a little more fun, a little more lighthearted, and just talk with you guys. Like literally, like just come home from a long day and just hang out with you guys while I cook, You can cook with me. And another reason that I really wanted to start this is because cooking has been something that has been really healing for me, especially as a kid. And I'm going to get into all of that once we start baking the cookies. But cooking and baking and being in the kitchen is something that has brought so much healing to my life, especially in really hard times. And so there's something about it that's just therapeutic. I don't know what it is. Putting your hands on something, creating something, it really gets you out of your head. And so I really wanted to create a space where I can also just have fun, get out of my head, and just hang out with you guys and do something that I love and something that brings me joy, while also talking, because you guys know I freaking love to talk too much. So that's why I have a podcast. And now let's get into this freaking cookie recipe because I'm so excited to show you guys this. Okay, so first thing you're gonna need 2 sticks of butter. Now, preferably you want them to be softened, but if you have a stand mixer or even like a hand mixer, if it's not softened, it's not the end of the world. Still make the cookies. And I will say, one thing about me is I honestly prefer cooking over baking just because I'm not like a by the books kind of person. Like when I'm in the kitchen, I kind of just like to follow my heart, just throw stuff in there. So this is why I love this recipe, because I literally have it memorized just because I've done it so many times and I found what works for me. So you're gonna take 2 sticks of butter, which is a half a cup of butter, and you are going to put it in your mixing bowl. So we have 2 sticks of butter in the bowl, and now we're gonna add our sugars. So usually when you go to like a cookie recipe online, it's gonna tell you to cream your butters and sugars. That's what we're gonna do. Okay, now this is my hot take on sugar, the sugar ratio. This is important to tell you guys because it matters. But usually when you see a chocolate chip cookie recipe, it's gonna be equal parts white sugar and brown sugar. Now, I always do more brown sugar than white sugar just because I like my cookies to just be molassesy and dark and just, it makes them sweeter. And I also, part of that is the fact that I prefer semi-sweet chocolate chips over milk chocolate chips in my cookies. And so because of that, because of the chocolate not being overly sweet, I really like the base of the cookie to be really just like sweet. So, and we're gonna add salt too, don't worry. So anyways, so we're gonna do more brown sugar than we are gonna do white sugar, but you're gonna do 1 1/4 cups of brown sugar, and you're gonna do 3/4 cups of white sugar. And then you can really do this however you want, but make sure that you fill the cup all the way and you pack it. But just look at how beautiful that sugar looks. The brown sugar is just everything. And we're honestly gonna make a mess, but we're in the kitchen, so that's just how it is. Okay, so you kind of want to pat it down a little bit, right? Make sure all the sugar's in there. Now, again, since I'm not a baker, if you're a baker and you see this, you might come for me, but I'm so not like super specific. Like obviously you want to measure it properly, but it's also not that deep, and it's chocolate chip cookies. And every time I've made them, they've turned out good. So, all right, so we're going to do 1 1/4 cups of brown sugar. Now, I want to tell you guys, while I measure this sugar, one of the things that I was talking to my therapist about the other day, like with this cooking show, I feel like, I don't know, guys, I just turned 25, and that's honestly really scary to say because I feel like, I know I'm still young, but it feels like you get to this age and you feel like you have to like have your life figured out, and you feel like you're supposed to just like know who you are. And I feel like there's so much that I still don't know about myself, and so much that I'm still learning, and I'm still establishing my career. Like I didn't go to college, and so I'm still establishing like what I want to do with my life and what brings me joy, what motivates me, what makes me excited, what I feel like matters to me, what my purpose is, like as far as career and all that goes, and just trying to find a balance in life. I feel like I always am so extreme in everything I do. I'm so all or nothing, which can be good at times, but I feel like generally it's not the best thing, you know, to be all or nothing. And so I am trying to find a balance in my life. And so I'm so excited about this cooking show because I feel like it's such a good balance for me, a balance of fun, a balance of just like a childlike thing that I enjoy. And then also obviously doing the podcast, which is something that matters to me and is really like emotional. And so I just feel like I'm trying to find a balance in my life of just what I want to do with my life and who I want to be. And so I'm excited for the cooking show for that reason, because this just excites me, and it's therapeutic in a different way than the podcast. Like, they're both therapeutic and good, but it's just different. So yeah, I don't know if you guys feel like that, but there's definitely like a pressure that I think we all naturally feel when we start to get older, that like we need to have our lives figured out. And I think part of becoming an adult is realizing how much of your childhood really got robbed from you by feeling like you had to have your life figured out right now. When you were like 18, when you were 16, it's like, how are we supposed to know who we are, what we want to do, what we like? And so I feel like I'm accepting and letting myself explore more and like be more like a kid, and not feel like I have to just like know. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I don't know, and I'm 25, and it made me realize, like, why did I keep trying to put myself in boxes? Like, I want to just be able to explore and find things that I love, which is one thing about cooking that I love. So that's the next thing I want to talk to you guys about while I measure my other part of my sugar, which is going to be 3/4 cup of white sugar, because we did 1 cup and 1/4 of brown sugar. The next thing I really want to talk to you guys about is like why I wanted to start this cooking show. Now, obviously, I kind of just went on a rant of like why I wanted to start it, but I want to go in depth of a little bit more of, you know, cooking, because I don't even know if any of you guys knew that I like to cook. Like, I know that I make a lot of like drinks and stuff on TikTok, but like, I don't know if you guys know that I actually really love to cook, and it's actually something that I love doing, like hosting people, cooking for people. Having people over for meals is like literally one of my favorite things in this life to do. It's something that I feel like I haven't really done on social media too much, just because it's like hard to know how to do it. And also it's just something, again, I've just always done, and I didn't think that people really cared. But what I'm learning is that it doesn't matter what other people think. It matters what I think and what I care about. Okay, so I'm gonna throw in 1/4 cup, and then obviously another 1/2 cup, which will make 3/4 cup of white sugar. Anyways, I haven't always had a very healthy relationship with food. Like, if you guys know anything about my childhood, I grew up with drug addict parents. I grew up kind of in the system. I was in foster care for a little bit when I lived with my aunt and uncle, and then I lived with my sister. And so growing up, like, my parents, like, we never really cooked. Like, my dad used to cook a little bit, but we ate out for a lot of the meals that we had. And we didn't always have food around, and you know, there's a lot that goes into all of that. But all of that to say, I've never really had a healthy relationship with food, and growing up I was definitely not very healthy at all. Okay, guys, we're gonna throw in that sugar. Okay, in the bowl we have 2 sticks of butter, which is 1/2 cup of butter, and then we have 1 cup and 1/4 of brown sugar and 3/4 cup of white sugar. Now we're gonna cream this. So when I tell you guys, let this work. Like, don't just mix it. Like, it needs to be creamed and fluffy. Like, we're looking for a very fluffy consistency. So I'm gonna put my stand mixer down, lock the top, and then I'm gonna put it on a 4, and I'm gonna let this beat for like probably around 1 minute to 2 minutes. I would say more around 2 minutes. So we're just gonna let this do its magic, get creamy and fluffy, because that's what's really going to create like a fluffy cookie. And I want it to be fluffy and gooey on the inside, not flat. We want it to have a little bit of puff. Okay guys, it's probably been going for about 1.5 minutes. I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to scrape the sides, just because we want to make sure that everything is getting mixed. Obviously, and you see this like dark brown color? That's what you want. You want it to be like caramely and just molassesy and delicious. So I'm gonna let this beat for about 30 more seconds. Again, we're looking for a really fluffy consistency, so we really want it to be mixed. Okay, we're gonna scrape the sides one more time. It's looking so good. And now I'm gonna mix it a little bit longer. I know I keep mixing it, but we really want a fluffy consistency. And we're also gonna add eggs and vanilla to this, but we are looking for very creamed and fluffy. I'm gonna give it like 30 more seconds. So definitely at least 2 minutes you want it to be. All right, guys, we are done beating the sugar and the butter, and we're gonna scrape this down. And we're not done with our wet ingredients. Again, there's a couple components to the wet ingredients. So now we're gonna add our eggs and we're gonna add our vanilla. But I want you guys to see this texture of what this looks like. Do you guys see how this just looks like fluffy and creamy and delicious? Like that's what you want. You really want the butter and the sugar to be incorporated. That is one of like the secrets to a good chocolate chip cookie recipe. So, okay, now that this is scraped down a little bit, we're gonna go in and we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now, 2 teaspoons may sound like a lot, but I like my cookies sweet and delicious, and vanilla just adds such a yummy flavor. So we're gonna do 2 teaspoons of vanilla into the wet ingredients. And low, I feel like every time I do it, I like pour a little extra vanilla just because I really like it with vanilla. But 2 teaspoons is enough. And then you're gonna add 2 large eggs. Now we're gonna see if I can crack these properly. I think we can. I think I'm gonna crack them on here and then in the bowl. We don't want any shells. No shells. Do one more. Crack. And okay, now that we have all of our wet ingredients in here, we're going to beat this again. So we want to cream this all together and get a really fluffy consistency. Super important. This is going to change the game and make your cookie much better. So we're going to throw this down. I'm going to put it on probably a 4, and we're just going to let that mix and incorporate for probably, again, about a minute. It looks so beautiful. Okay, now again, we're gonna scrape down the sides. Now we just want this to be mixed pretty well. Like we don't need to go too hard on this. It's more important to cream the butter and the sugar, but we're gonna give it another mix. Perfect. Okay, guys, so this is what we're looking for. Do you see how this just looks like fluffy and just delicious? Oh gosh. This is what you are looking for as far as consistency on those wet ingredients, which really will make or break your chocolate chip cookie. So make sure that you spend the time to really mix it properly. Looks so yum. And now we're gonna move on to our dry ingredients, which is just as important. So what you're gonna need is you are gonna need 3 cups of flour. You're gonna need 1 teaspoon of salt, preferably sea salt. And then you're going to need 1 teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of baking powder, okay? So that's what you're gonna need for your dry ingredients. Now, you can do this however you want. If you wanna do this in a separate mixing bowl, you can. I don't, just because I'm lazy and I rather just keep it all in one bowl. So I'm gonna take this little mixer off. You don't have to do this, but just so I have a little bit more of a clean surface to work with, I'm gonna add my flour in first, then I'm gonna add these others, the salt, the baking soda, the baking powder, and I'm gonna kind of whisk it with a fork with the flour before actually incorporating it into the wet mixture, because you obviously want your baking soda and your baking powder and salt to get mixed thoroughly so you get a good even bake amongst all the cookies. That is why some people will choose to mix them separately in a bowl, whisk all their dry ingredients together. Now again, I don't do that because life hack, you don't have to if you just put the flour in and then whisk it up before actually mixing it all together. Okay guys, so back to my point about not having a very healthy relationship with food growing up. Food was a comfort for me. It was something that brought me comfort amidst kind of the chaos that was going on in my home life. And yeah, it was something that brought me joy, but it also hurt me because I was very bullied for being overweight growing up. And so it was kind of one of those things. And again, I also ate out for almost every meal. So I never really learned a lot about cooking or anything. So it wasn't something that I did when I was a kid. But when I was about 14 years old, so random, but it ties into all of this and why I wanted to start this cooking show, is I started watching Chopped. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, Chopped, the cooking show, but I started watching that And if for anyone who doesn't know, it's pretty much like a cooking competition show. And so all these people go, they have like secret ingredients, mystery ingredients that they have to like cook around, and they're usually not really appetizing. And so it's like a cooking competition. And that was kind of the first cooking show that I got into, which is so funny because I was like, again, 13, 14. I'm pretty sure I was 14, but I was like young, so it's like random that I liked cooking shows, but I started watching it. Also, here's a hack. When you're doing your flour, you want to make sure that you kind of tap on the measuring cup because you don't want it to like clump up and not fully be filled. So for you to get an accurate measurement, that's something I learned in like Pro Start in high school, is you want to tap. Like what you want to do is you want to get it, tap, and then sift it off with the back of a knife or with any tool that you can use that's going to give you an even, clean line. Okay, so there's our 3 cups of flour. On to the next. Now again, I'm going to add my baking soda, salt, and baking powder. Once I started getting into watching cooking shows, I started with Chopped, and then slowly I started watching like Bobby Flay, Martha Stewart, all those people, and I really got into it and I like loved it. I was like, this is the best. Like, it was something about it just brought me so much peace. Like, I don't know what it was, but it just brought me this weird sense of peace. And amidst the chaos in my life, it was something that just brought me a lot of peace. And then eventually what happened is after I started watching these cooking shows, I was like, wait, I like kind of want to try this. Like, I kind of want to try to cook. And at the time, me and my family were on food stamps because obviously we didn't have a lot of money. We added our salt. Now, brief intermission from my story. This is so important. Okay, so we're gonna take a handy dandy whisk, and in here you can also use a fork. This is a fancier version of what I usually do. And we're gonna make sure that we kind of mix those dry ingredients on top of the wet ingredients because we wanna make sure that that baking soda and that salt is distributed evenly. So I'm gonna just whisk that in there. Make sure it's a little mixed before we mix it with the stand mixer. I'm gonna attach my stand mixer hook again. And then we're gonna mix this up. Guys, and we're almost done. We're so close to being done with our cookies. Okay, now, let's make sure we scrape the sides to get all that flour on the sides incorporated, and obviously just kind of scrape around anyways because, oh, the cooking attachment came up. But we want to make sure we're getting everything evenly mixed. So important with chocolate chip cookies. Here I am making a mess as per usual. Welcome to my life, guys. My life is just a mess all the time. That's why I say I'm an amateur chef. I wouldn't consider myself a chef. I'm just someone who loves to cook. Eventually, I think it would be kind of fun to go to culinary school, but we'll see what happens. Okay. So this just looks fluffy and delicious, and that is the texture that we are going for. So you just want to make sure, scrape the sides to just make sure everything is evenly mixed, and it looks like it's looking really good. Now, the last step of the chocolate chip cookies, which I can't believe we've come this far, guys, we're at the last step, is obviously your chocolate chips. Now, there's a lot of ways that you can do this, but the easiest way that I found for my recipe is I just add pretty much a whole bag of chocolate chips. You can measure it out and do 2 cups of chocolate chips or like a cup and a half if you like less chocolate chips, but I usually just dump them in there. And again, it just depends on if I'm cooking for someone or baking them for someone who doesn't like chocolate chips, I'll do less. If they do, I'll add more. So this is really just personal preference. But yeah, let's add our chocolate chips in. This is exciting. And again, it is important that you do semi-sweet chocolate chips, especially if you followed the rest of my recipe, because I had to try it. Because the dough is really sweet because we did more brown sugar than white sugar, and also because we added a lot of sugar. So if you want to use milk chocolate, you're gonna want to cut your sugar down a little bit, because then it's just gonna be too sweet, and we don't want it to be overly sweet. We want it to be like sweet and salty and delicious. So these are a little bit more bitter. They're still sweet, but they're not like a milk chocolate, you know? So anyways, now we're gonna add our chocolate chips. So yeah, I usually add the whole bag, but if I don't, I'll add about 3/4 of the bag. So it kind of just depends on what I feel in my heart. But usually I'd say you're safe to add about a full bag of chocolate chips. Okay, now this is really important. When you're mixing your chocolate chips into your cookie dough, you don't want to overmix, because you don't want to break up those chocolate chips more than they're already broken, especially with these because they're little. So we're really just looking to fold these in. You can even do it with your spatula. I like to mix it a little bit with the stand mixer just so the chocolate chips get evenly dispersed, but don't overmix this. So I'm just going to put it on stir. This looks so beautiful. Okay, now, as you can see at the bottom of the bowl, there's a lot of chocolate chips. So what we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to go in here and use our little spatula to drag and fold those chocolate chips at the bottom and give them a good mix so they can get evenly dispersed. Okay, I think we're good. Oh my goodness, guys, look at this. This is Marry Me chocolate chip cookies. I'm telling you, and not even Marry Me chocolate chip cookies. These are just like the best chocolate chip cookies. Like, I'm telling you, if you feed these to anyone, they're gonna love you. So, and obviously we haven't baked them yet, but you just have to trust me and trust the process that it's gonna be good. Okay, I'm gonna take this guy off. And of course, if you guys weren't here and I wasn't filming, I'd probably just lick that off, but I'll act like a more put together human today and actually use a spoon to do it. Look at her. Look at her. She's beautiful. Okay, now, before we put her on the sheet, I need to try her. I think this is the best part about cooking, is that you get to try what you make before others, just like as you're cooking. And if you're scared of salmonella, I'm sorry, but I will always eat the cookie dough. It's so good. Guys, it's literally so good. I don't know what to tell you. It's actually so good. It's so fluffy. The base is so sweet. And the chips are just a little sweet. And then it has a touch of salt. Okay, now you're gonna grab a cookie sheet. It's important, very important. And if you have a scooper like this is gonna make your life so much easier, but if you don't, you can also just do 2 tablespoons and then roll it into balls. Also, preheat your oven to 375 while you're doing this, or you could have done it before, but I forgot to tell you, so you can do it now, but 375 is what you want your oven at. Now, you don't need to grease your pan because there's already butter in the cookies. You can use parchment paper if you'd like, but I kind of like the crispy texture that it gets from just being on the pan. So we're gonna roll these into our little balls. And by that, I mean I'm gonna use my scooper, but if you don't have a scooper, you'll roll them into balls. Looks like this. I always take it on the edge and just really make sure that it's even across the whole thing. Okay. First cookie going down. It's a big deal. Now, you could chill this in the fridge or in the freezer for a little bit. I never really do, again, unless I'm saving them to cook at a later time, because they are best when they're fresh, but we're just gonna go for it today. But you can chill them if you need to. It's not gonna make that much of a difference in my opinion. Again, no expert baker here. So back to my story. So when I got into all those cooking shows, I was like, I want to try this. So I used to be on food stamps because my parents were really poor. So what I did is I would take my mom's food stamps card to the grocery store, and then I would go and get these ingredients for this extravagant meal. And I would like try to cook it. Like I love the challenge of like trying to follow the recipe from the cooking shows or whatever it was. And so I was like 14 and I was like trying to make like potato leek soup. And I also would make chicken noodle soup with dumplings in them. And it was honestly really good, but like it was something that I got into and I just like fell in love with it. Like there was just something about cooking that brought me just this sense of peace. And it was also really awesome because again, my family ate out a lot. And so it was so fun to be able to cook for my family. So like my little brother, I would always cook for him and cook for my mom. My mom and dad were divorced at that time, so they weren't together anymore. And when my sisters were there, some of my sisters had moved out already and were in college and lived with extended family members, but whoever was there, I loved cooking for them. I really loved it. And that's kind of what started my journey into cooking and like my love for cooking. That's kind of where it started. And then what really propelled it forward was when I kind of started getting into like caring about my health. And so when I was in high school, I moved in with my sister, and she's actually the one who got me into like the holistic lifestyle, like organic, all that stuff, eating whole foods. And so when I moved in with her when I was about 16, I was like, this is so awesome. And so it really kind of just sparked my cooking even more. And so I just loved making anything and everything, honestly. But that's when I got into it a lot as well. And then I cooked a lot when I was married, because anyone who's watching this probably knows I'm divorced. So it was really fun for me too, obviously, as a wife to cook. But when I got a divorce, I'm not going to lie, like I do feel like I kind of lost my love for cooking a little bit, just because number one, it's a lot harder to cook for yourself than it is to cook for other people. Like when you have someone to cook for, it's like you can cook for you and them, and there's just something about it that just makes it better. And I think I just, was just a little bit like lost my love for it after that and had a lot of stress in my life and whatever. So I kind of stopped cooking as much. And then I got back into it when I started living alone and I got my own place and I moved out, of my roommates. And then I got really into it again when I started dating my boyfriend now. And now I cook for him all the time, and it's something that I love to do. And it's just something that brings me peace, and it's just therapeutic, and it's fun, and it's special. And I love cooking for the people that I love. It's like such a love language for me. Yeah, that's where my love for cooking started. And that's why I wanted to start this cooking show, guys, because if you know anything about my life, the last year has been absolutely insane, and I've traveled so much. And it's been such a blessing. It's been so fun, but it's been so amazing to get back to just like having a routine and cooking and just normalcy and having people over and just all that. And so I just really am excited to do that, not only with you guys, but to have guests on here and do it with them and just share something that is so fun and special to me, but also just a place where we can hang out and talk. So there's my rant, and that's why I wanted to start this cooking show. So now you guys know. And here are our cookies. I'm so freaking pumped right now. All right, guys, now we're gonna throw our chocolate chip cookies in the oven for 7.5 minutes at 375. I repeat, 7.5 minutes. Do not over bake your cookies. Now again, if you like your cookies really crispy and not gooey on the inside, do your own thing. You can do them for like 10 minutes, I would say. 9 to 10 minutes if you really like them crunchy and a little crispy. But if you like a really gooey inside and a little bit of a crunchy outside, 375, 7.5 minutes. And trust me when I tell you guys, I know in your heads you're gonna be like, Nicole, they don't look cooked, but they will cook on the pan once you take them out. So do not overcook them, I beg of you. It will change how good the cookie is. Also, guys, just because I like a little extra salt, you absolutely don't have to do this, but I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of sea salt on top of these cookies, because I just want to be a little extra today. Add a little titch of salt. Now again, a sprinkle, people, don't go too hard. I'm just going to do a little sprinkle of salt. Amazing. Okay, now we're going to throw these in the oven for 7.5 minutes. So The rotation that's going to be going on with Elephants in the Kitchen and Elephants in the Room is right now, I'm going to try to do one Elephants in the Kitchen every other week and then one Elephants in the Room every other week. So every Wednesday, you guys are going to have an episode, whether it's in the kitchen or in the podcast studio. So I'm excited for that rotation. I'm so excited to be consistent. If you guys have like any things you want me to make, please like leave comments, send me DMs. Also, if there's any guests that you really want to have on Elephants in the Kitchen or Elephants in the Room, let me know. I have a couple in mind. I have a couple planned that I'm excited for, but obviously I want to know who you guys want to see. And we'll still talk about things like the Elephants in the Kitchen, AKA my setup. Also, do you guys like my apron? I'm actually so obsessed with my apron. I thought it was so cute and fun, and of course it's already dirty, but that's part of being in the kitchen. But yeah, I'm super excited for that rotation, and I'm just excited to have fun with you guys and just bake and cook. And again, I'm no pro over here. I'm just cooking because I love it and because it's fun, but it is fun to take you guys with me, and these cookies are gonna be so good. You guys need to try them. All right, guys, we just pulled our chocolate chip cookies out of the oven. We are ready to go. They look so beautiful. As you guys can tell, there's a little bit of a crispy golden edging on the outside, which is what you want. The top looks still pretty like undercooked, but it's cooked, I promise, and they also cook as they come out of the oven. So I'm gonna take these off the pan and we're gonna give them a try. I'm like, which one is the prettiest? I need the prettiest. You know what I mean? That one's beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Now we're gonna pour a glass of milk, guys, because you know I love raw milk. It's the best. Okay, guys, I took my cookies out of the oven. I may have already tasted one, but I'm gonna do another taste test for you guys and show you how they are. These are literally the best chocolate chip cookies ever. I'm telling you guys, crispy on the outside, gooey on the inside, a little bit of flaky sea salt on top, and they're best fresh out of the oven, but they're still good even when they have sat a little bit. So let's try them. Cheers. I want to give you guys like a cut so you can see how good it looks on the inside. The literal best chocolate chip cookies ever. They're like falling apart, which is how you want them because you want them to be gooey on the inside. Chef's kiss, guys. Guys, thank you so much for watching. This was so fun, and I'm so excited for all that's to come with this cooking show. I was obviously a little nervous because it's my first episode, but it was fun. I hope you guys had fun, and I'm just so excited to see what we make, who comes on, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And yeah, I hope you guys try these chocolate chip cookies because they are literally so freaking good. I will leave the recipe link down below. And if you guys want to support me, you can follow me on all my Elephants in the Kitchen channels, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and you can also leave a comment. You can share it on your story, share it with a friend. You can also follow me on all my Elephants in the Room socials, as well as my personal socials. So Elephants in the Room on all the platforms, and then Nicole.Donna on all the other platforms. I love you guys. I'm so thankful for you guys. Thank you guys for always supporting me in whatever I choose to do. And I wouldn't feel even comfortable doing this if I didn't feel like I had such a supportive just group of people that understand me and know my heart and just root me on. So I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks.